Hey, what's up you guys? It's Dorothy and welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys so much for stopping back by and joining us, on this adventure of reading One of Us is Lying. In today's video, we're going to go into part 1 of chapter 28. I just drank some soda and now I got the burpee warpies. Anyways, we are going into part 1 of chapter 28 of One of Us is Lying by Karen McManus, so let's get right into this video. This video may contain sensitive topics and foul language. If you do not wish to continue, please click off the video now. You have been warned. Chapter 28, Cooper, Wednesday, November 7th, 7:40 p.m. These murder club meetings are becoming a regular thing. We need a new name though. This time we're at a coffee shop in downtown San Diego, crammed into a back table because our numbers keep expanding. Chris came with me and Ashton's with Addie. Browen's got all her post-it notes on a bunch of manila folders, including the newest one. Simon paid 2 kids to stage a car accident. She says Sam Barron promised to call Eli and let him know. How that'll help Nate, I have no idea. Why'd you pick this place, Browen? Addie asks, kind of out of the way. Browen clears her throat and makes a big production of rearranging her post-it notes. No reason. So anyway, she shoots a business-like look around the table. Thanks for coming. Maeve and I keep going over this stuff, and it never makes any sense. We thought a meeting of the minds might help. Maeve and Ashton return from the counter, balancing orders on a couple of recyclable trays. They hand drinks around, and I watch Chris methodically open 5 packets of sugar and dump them into his latte. What? He asks, catching my expression. He's in a green polo shirt that brings out his eyes, and he looks really, really good. That still seems like the kind of thing I'm not supposed to notice. You like sugar, huh? It's a dumb thing to say. What I mean is, I have no idea how you take your coffee because this is the first time we've been out in public together. Chris presses his lips together, which shouldn't be attractive, but it is. I feel awkward and jittery and accidentally bump into his knee under the table. Nothing wrong with that, Addie says, tipping her cup against Chris's. The liquid inside hers is so pale it barely resembles coffee. Chris and I have been spending more time together, but it doesn't feel natural yet. Maybe I've gotten used to the sneaking around, or maybe I haven't come to terms with the fact that I'm dating a guy. I found myself keeping my distance from Chris when we walked from my car to the coffee shop because I didn't want people guessing what we are to each other. I hate that part of me, but it's there. Browen has some kind of steaming tea that looks too hot to drink. She pushes it aside and props one of the manila folders against the wall. Here's all the stuff we know about Simon. He was going to post rumors about us. He paid 2 kids to stage a car accident. He was depressed. He had creepy online persona. He and Janae seemed to be on the outs. He had a thing for Keely. He used to be friends with Jake. Am I missing anything? He deleted my original about that entry, I say. Not necessarily, Browen corrects. Your entry was deleted. We don't know by whom. Fair enough, I guess. And here's what we know about Jake, Browen continues. He wrote at least one of the Tumblr posts or helped somebody else write it. He wasn't He wasn't in the school building when Simon died, according to Lewis. He is a complete control freak, Ashton interrupts. Addie opens her mouth in protest, but Ashton cuts her off. He is, Addie. He ran every part of your life for 3 years. Then as soon as you did something he didn't like, he blew up. Browen scribbles, Jake is a control freak on a post-it with an apologetic glance at Addie. It's a data point. Browen says, now, what if the front door bangs and she goes bright red? What a coincidence. I follow her gaze to see a young guy with wild hair and a scruffy beard enter the coffee shop. He looks familiar, but I can't place him. He spots Browen with an exasperated expression that turns alarmed when he takes in Addie and me. He holds a hand in front of his face. I don't see you, any of you. Then he catches sight of Ashton and does a classic double take, almost tripping over his feet. Oh, hi, you must be Addie's sister. Ashton blinks confused, looking between him and Browen. Do I know you? This is Eli Kleinfetter, Browen says. He's with Until Proven. Their offices are upstairs. He's Nate's lawyer. Who cannot talk to you, Eli says. Like he just remembered. He gives Ashton a lingering look, but turns away and heads for the counter. Ashton shrugs and blows at her coffee. I'm sure she's used to having that effect on guys. Addie's eyes are round, and she watches Eli's retreating back. God, Browen, I can't believe you stalked Nate's lawyer. Browen looked almost as embarrassed as she should be, taking the envelope I'd given her out of her backpack. I wanted to see if Sam Barron ever got in touch and pass along his information. If he hadn't, I thought if I ran into Eli casually, he might talk to me. Guess not. She darts a hopeful look at Ashton. I bet he'd talk to you, though. Addie locks her hand on her hips and just her chin out of range. You can't pimp out my sister. Ashton smiles wryly and holds out her hand for the envelope. As long as it's for a good cause. What am I supposed to say? Tell him he was right, that the car accident at Bayview the day Simon died was staged. The envelope has contact information excuse me, for the boy Simon paid to do it. Ashton heads for the counter and we all sip our drinks in silence. When she returns a minute later, the envelope still in her hand. Sam called him. She confirms. He said he's looking into that. He appreciates the information and you should mind your fucking business. That's a direct quote. Browen looks relieved and not at all insulted. Thank you. That's good news. So where were we? Simon and Jake, Maeve says, propping her chin in one hand, and she gazes at 2 manila folders. They're connected, but how? Excuse me, Chris says mildly, and everyone looks at him and they've forgotten he was at the table, which they probably had. He's been quiet since we got here. Maeve tries to make up for it by giving him an encouraging smile. Yeah? I wonder, Chris says. His English is unaccented and almost perfect with just a little formality that hints he's from someplace else. There has always been so much focus on who was in the room. That's why the police originally targeted the 4 of you, because it would be almost impossible for anyone who wasn't in the room to kill Simon, right? Right, I say. So, Chris removes 2 Post-its from the folders. If the killer wasn't Cooper or Browen or Addie or Nate, and nobody thinks the teacher who was there could have anything to do with it, who does that leave? He layers 1 Post-it on top of the other and on the wall to the table, then sits back and looks at us with a polite attentiveness. Simon was poisoned during detention. Simon was depressed. We're all silent for a long minute until Browen exhales a small gasp. I'm the ominous narrator, she says. What? Addie asks. That's what Simon said before he died. I said there wasn't any such thing in teen movies, and he said there was in life. Then he drained his drink in one gulp. Browen turns and calls Eli, but the door's already closing behind Nate's lawyer. So you're saying Ashton stares around the table until her eyes land on Chris. You think Simon committed suicide? Chris nods. But why? Why like that? Let's go back to what we know, Browen says. Her voice is almost clinical, but her face is flushed brick red. Simon was one of those people who thought he should be at the center of everything, but wasn't. And he was obsessed with the idea of making some kind of huge violent splash at school. He fantasized about it all the time on those 4chan threads. What if this was his version of a school shooting, kill himself and take a bunch of students down with him, but in an unexpected way, like framing them for murder? She turns to her sister. What did Simon say on 4chan, Maeve? Do something original. Surprise me when you take out a bunch of lemming assholes. Maeve nods. Exact quote, I think. I think about how Simon died, choking, panic, trying to catch his breath. If he really did it to himself, I wish more than ever we'd found his damn EpiPen. I think he regretted it at the end, I say, the weight of the words settling heavy on my heart. He looked like he wanted help. If he could have gotten medication in time, maybe a close call like that would have jolted him back into being a different kind of guy. Chris's hand squeezes mine under the table. Browen and Addie both look like they're back in the room where Simon died, horrified and stunned. They know I'm right. Silence descends, and I think we might be done until Maeve looks over at the Post-it wall and sucks in her cheeks. But how does Jake fit in, she asks. Chris hesitates and clears his throat, like he was waiting for permission to speak. When nobody protests, he says, if Jake isn't Simon's killer, he must be his accomplice. Someone had to keep things going after Simon died. He meets Browen's eyes and some kind of understanding passes between them. They're the brains of this operation. The rest of us are just trying to keep up. Chris's hand pulled away from mine while he was talking, and I take it back. Simon's found out that Addie and TJ, Browen says. Maybe that's how he approached Jake in the first place, to get his help. Jake would have wanted revenge because he... A chair scrapes noisily beside me as Addie pushes herself away from the table. Stop, she says in a choked voice, her purple streaked hair falling into her eyes. Jake wouldn't. He couldn't. I think we've had enough for one night, Ashton says firmly, getting to her feet. You guys keep going, but we need to get home. Sorry, Addie, Browen says with a cringed expression. I got carried away. Addie waves a hand. It's fine, she says unsteadily. I can't right now. Ashton links arms with her until they get to the door. Then she pulls it open and lets Addie slip through ahead of her. Maeve watches them, her chin in her hands. She has a point. The whole thing sounds impossible, doesn't it? And even if we're right, we can't prove anything. She looks hopefully at Chris, and though she's willing him to work more post-it magic, Chris shrugs and taps the colored square closest to him. Perhaps there's one person remaining who knows something useful. Excuse me. Janae seems depressed. Browen and Maeve leave around 9, and Chris and I don't stay much longer. We gather up the table's debris that left and deposit it in the trash can next to the exit. We're both quiet, coming off the weirdest dates in history. Well, Chris says, pushing through the door and pausing on the sidewalk to wait for me. That was interesting. Before he can say anything else, I grab him and press him in against the coffee shop wall, my fingers digging into his hair and my tongue sliding between his teeth in a deep, wanting kiss. He makes a sound like a surprised growl and pulls me hard against his chest. When another couple exits through the door and we break apart, he looks dazed. He straightens his shirt and runs a hand over his hair. Thought you'd forgotten how to do that. I'm sorry. My voice thickens with the need to kiss him again. It's not that I didn't want to. It's just, I know. Chris laces his fingers in mine and holds our hands up like a question. Yes? Yes, I say, and we start down the sidewalk together. That is the end of part 1 of chapter 27. I will see you guys in the next video. This is chapter 27, I think. I may be wrong. No, chapter 28. That is the end of part 1 of chapter 28. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.